When people see me today learning AI, working with data, and building healthcare technology, they might assume that technology has always been part of my life. Honestly, it hasn't. There was a time when I didn't know how to use a computer. There was a time when I couldn't afford the computer training. And there was even a time when my biggest technological dream was simply to learn how to type very fast on the keyboard, as that was only aspect of technology I knew then. Today, I want to take you back to where it really began. So it didn't start with AI, not with data science, but with an old desktop computer. So as a child, I didn't grow up with my parents. I grew up with my aunt in Enugu, and her husband was a lecturer at the University of Nigeria. So when I was much younger, around my primary school, there was an old desktop computer, those big ones that usually have monitor, CPU, keyboard, and all separate. So those big ones. So most times I usually stare at him whenever I saw him working on the computer. And oftentimes he would ask me to come and help him type. So I was usually fascinated, and that was when I started dreaming of when I will eventually start typing very fast in computer. So most times if I go to cyber cafe, I would see people typing very fast, and I was just admiring them and you know dreamt of being like them. So most times I see myself thinking about it. But looking back now, I realize that that was the first time the idea of technology crossed my mind. So after my secondary school, I actually had plan. By this time, I've already gone back to my parents' house. So the plan was to attend attend a computer training for maybe 3 or 6 months before getting into the university. So the idea is not to learn programming or AI or even data science. I just wanted to have a basic knowledge of computer and type very fast. But that plan didn't actually happen because I couldn't afford a computer training. So I then got admission to study in Abia State Polytechnic Aba, which is now Ogbonnayonu Polytechnic. Life continued. So the dream of learning how to type very fast was kept on hold. I think this is an important part of my story because sometimes when people see someone learning technology today, they don't see the environment that person came from. Technology, especially having the device to learn with, felt like a very big luxury to me. I still remember when I was in my second year, that was 2016. Most of my mates were already using Android. Some are even using iPhones then. But I was still using button phone. It wasn't something I was ashamed of. It was simply my reality. So after graduation, I went to NYSC in Calabar, Cross River State. I still carry that old desire to learn how to type very fast in computer. So I now came across the 3MTT program in 2023. So the 3MTT program is actually 3 million technical talents is a federal government initiative aimed at training 3 million Nigerians in technical skills. So I saw it as a free ticket to learn how to type very fast in computer. Remember, I don't have any idea of technology apart from typing fast. So my honest desire then was to learn how to type very fast in computer. So when I applied for the course, I couldn't choose or make a decision on the particular learning track I want to apply. So after registration, I got stuck on choosing the learning track. I went back to Google search to, you know, research on all the tracks, but I got stuck and I was confused. I saw different learning tracks. I saw data analysis, data science, product design, software development, and even cyber security. So I didn't have any knowledge of all of them, so I couldn't make a choice. So I now went to a friend who I believe had knowledge of all these things and how they work. So he advised I choose data analysis. But I said no, I was skeptical. Like I wanted data science. But he said, looking at the fact that I'm coming from a no technology background, that data analysis was a better start. So I chose data analysis. So choosing data analysis felt like the beginning of something very exciting. So the program was hybrid and the physical classes were once every week. It was held on Saturday at Tech in Calabar. If you are familiar with Calabar South, I was staying at Afoka. And so most times going from Afoka to Tech, I don't have transport, but I kept pushing. Most times I trek. So finally, when the program started and I was diving deeper, I found it very exciting. But then I had couple of challenges. I didn't have a laptop, so I learned with what I had, which was my phone. So my first Python code was written on my phone using Google Colab. So I thank God for Google for such a wonderful project. So I did most of my assignments on Google Colab with my phone. So whenever I needed to work on a very large data set or something bigger, my supervisor often lent me his laptop. And honestly, I was grateful. But as the program became more practical with Python assessments, projects, and everything else, it became more hard. So there was also weekly knowledge showcase where learners could demonstrate what they've built, which I couldn't participate the way I wanted. So I think I one time I participated in the International Women's Day Challenge. So I entered with the hope of at least coming out bright, winning something because there were laptops to win, iPads, tablets, and all. But I didn't win. To be honest, I kind of felt discouraged. Eventually, the program ended. So after the program, a couple of internship opportunities came, but most of them require the participant to own their own personal laptop or at least have access to one, which I didn't have at the time. So even though I had learned something, even though I had started writing Python, even though I wanted to continue, I couldn't move the way I wanted to. So after a while, the dream of becoming a data professional just went on hold. So at the time, I didn't know what the next chapter would look like. But honestly, I thought that was the end, but it wasn't. In 2025, another opportunity came through the DeepTech Ready program. So this time, It's still under 3MTT. Something different happened because after the foundational classes, I decided to go for data science because to me, I think somewhere along the way, I had started believing that maybe I was ready to take the next step. So on the very first day of me getting to my applied learning course at my physical class location, it coincidentally happened to be the day the cohort one fellows were doing their capstone project presentation. And one of the fellows presented a project that caught my attention. It was a healthcare application in built. So seeing that, one thought kept crossing my mind. And that thought is, if this guy can build something like this, why can't I? And being that we were cohort two, they are cohort one. So for the first time, I was just thinking about learning technology and I was thinking about what problem I can actually solve with technology. So looking back at my story, there's something I'm beginning to understand. Sometimes we think a dream has died because we haven't achieved it yet, but sometimes it hasn't died. We just haven't reached that part of the story where it becomes possible. That little girl who was fascinated by an old desktop computer didn't know what data science was. She didn't even know about Python. She didn't know what AI was. She just wanted to learn how to type very fast in the computer. And somehow that small desire became the beginning of something much bigger. I also learned that starting don't always mean starting with everything you need. Sometimes you start with what you have. Sometimes someone lends you. Sometimes you miss opportunities. Sometimes you lose in competitions. Sometimes you have to start again and again. But the most important thing is that you have to keep moving. So this is the first chapter of building Malụmma in public. This week I share the beginning of my journey because I realized that if I'm going to build in public, I shouldn't only show people the finished project. I want you to see the process, the things that worked, the things that didn't, the moments when I was confident and the moments when I wasn't. And we are only getting started. Next week, I'm going to tell you about everything that happened during the DeepTech Ready program. How I went from simply wanting to learn data science to having a healthcare problem I couldn't ignore. And eventually, how that problem became the idea behind my first healthcare AI project. If you're interested in wanting to follow my story, I will encourage you to hit the subscribe button. I would also like you to tell me in the comment if you've ever had a dream you thought life had taken away from you. I love to hear the story.